Hi, Kathy. I did just turn on the live transcript, so you should be able to see it now, so you can read the subtitles. Sorry about the delay on that. Deborah, you're welcome. I hope you get lots of tips. Deborah is saying she's been trying to repaint furniture, but it never comes out the way she wants to.
Okay.
So she's looking forward to learning tonight.
Oh, good. All right. Well, that's why I'm here. So
yes, I feel the same way, Deborah. I was gonna repaint some chairs, and I had 6 of them, and I looked at them for years, thinking about if I should repaint them.
Right.
And then I said, that's gonna be a lot of work.
Chairs are a lot of work. Chairs. Yes. That's not a good first project. However, though, when yeah.
It never happened, and Wayfair got my business instead.
Yeah. Never too late, though, Amber.
No, it's never too late. Chairs are a lot. I probably could tackle a table, but I was just looking at all the different bars in the chair and the seat and
spindles and a lot of
different. Yes.
Yeah. Best to start with something small, like a small table, and then it becomes addictive, and then you just go from there.
Oh, then Deborah, Deborah's already sanded, primed, and painted, but the paint peels off.
Ah, okay. Right. What kind of paint, Deborah, did Deborah use?
Deborah, what kind of paint did you use? Chalk paint, latex.
Chalk paint. Okay, so and it was on a wood piece. Yes, not like a formica or a laminate piece. It was wood, and it was chalk paint, and it peeled off.
Welcome if you're just coming in. We haven't started yet, but we're just kind of chatting about Deborah's project she's tackling. So we're just getting some ideas. We'll officially start in about a minute. I still see some people coming in. And I know it's Friday and it's dinner time, so perhaps people are just finishing up dinner, but I do see some people still coming in, so we'll give everyone a few minutes. Welcome. I'm seeing a lot of names I recognize. Some of you may recognize me. My name is Amber Gagliardi. I'm a librarian here at the Middle Country Public Library, and I'm on a lot of these Zoom programs. So I'm back in action tonight, Friday night. We're here with a brand new programmer. Her name is Andrea, and she'll be introducing herself in just a minute. But I'm very excited to offer this program. I was just saying before how I always think about doing these sort of projects, and I just don't really have the guts or confidence. So I personally need this program, and I'm glad some of you do as well.
Good. You're good.
Okay, it's about 6:34, so we gave everyone a good 5-minute courtesy. We are going to get started because I was speaking to Andrea this morning, and she has a lot to cover and a lot of good ideas. So without further ado, Andrea, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Amber. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea. I am coming to you from my converted garage in North Massapequa, and I have a bunch of furniture that I have saved from the trash. That's one of the things I love to do most, is go out on garbage night and find some great stuff and give it new life. I have a lot of different kinds of paints that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to also demonstrate one piece start to finish in this hour and a half that we're together. So we'll talk about paint, we'll talk about finishes, distressing, waxing. I'm going to try and cover it all. And I did, let's see, I did pick up a few things that I'd like to show. Like I said, the trash is like one of my favorite sources. Facebook Marketplace is another. I got this little desk chair, a little vintage school desk chair for free. So that's one I'm going to sand. Eventually I'll sand and I'm going to paint this, but this one I'm going to use a latex paint for, not a chalk paint, and I'll tell you why. It depends when I choose which kind of paint I want to use. It depends on the kind of look we're going for. So for example, I have this here, which was also a trash can that my son found in Brooklyn. It's a little metal, it's pretty cool little table I'm going to use for outdoors. This one's going to get spray painted with a gloss aqua spray paint. So I thought that would look pretty cool in my backyard. So that's why I would choose spray paint for that, because of all the little, detail areas, just spray it and go. This one here is also a cute little desk that I found. This one, once it's cleaned up, I'm going to sand the top. I'm going to sand the seat with my electric sander. You can use a hand sander too, or just sandpaper. This one's going to go with, I'm going to go with chalk paint on this because of the look. When it's kind of like a rustic piece, something you want to distress, something you might want some of the grain to show through, or you want to get that like chippy finish, I always go with the chalk paint for that. Because it's matte, it doesn't have any sheen. It'll give you that like rustic, vintagey kind of look. Same thing with this one here. This is also another trash pick. And I love that it had this like embossed pattern, which I sanded down. I don't know how well you guys can see, but it has like a little raised pattern. So I'm going to use chalk paint on this guy because I think it'll save some of the pattern. And I think it's going to be pretty cool. I think I'll do this one in like a light gray, and I might do a different color top. I'm not sure, but we'll see. And this is the one, I actually found this last night. I thought it was the perfect size for tonight's demo. It's like a little vintage, I guess it's like a phone table. I don't know, I think. So this one I'm going to use chalk paint on because I like to distress it. And chalk paint, like I said, lends itself to that little distressing with some fine sandpaper. And then I will wax it when I'm done. So it's going to give me a nice smooth finish. It should feel nice. Sometimes I use latex paint. Like
everybody loves the garden table. That was the hit.
Isn't that great? This one, yes. Right?
I mean, great.
It's metal.
I can't believe someone threw that out.
I know. There were actually two. My son kept one and gave me one. He found them in Brooklyn in Greenpoint. But when I saw it, he FaceTimed me from the street. He's like, "Mom, do you want it?" I'm like, "Oh, yep, that's getting spray painted in gloss aqua." I just knew it. So, it all depends on what the end use is and what the look is that you want. So like I said, we got latex, we have chalk, we have spray paint. I also love this paint. This is one of my favorite. I'm not loyal to any single brand. I just use whatever, first of all, based on price sometimes, or the color. But this is Valspar cabinet and furniture paint that I use very often. If I don't want a distressed look, if I want something just clean, maybe not a farmhousey piece, maybe something more mid-century modern, I use this paint because there are no brush marks. So it's just a nice, clean smooth finish in a satin. That's the one I always go for. But tonight, we're gonna work on this guy, and I'm going to use one of my favorite chalk paints. It's Amy Howard, One Step. I recently started using this one because of the color. This is French blue, and a customer of mine was interested in this color, so I found the paint, and then I started using it, and I'm in love with it, and it smells like baby powder. It's awesome. So that's gonna be my demo for tonight on this little guy. So always the first thing I do with any piece that I paint, I always take a before picture, because you're gonna want to show everybody what it was before, so you can show off what you did. So I got my picture. Then I usually use, especially if it's a trash pick, Krug Kutter. I guess any all-purpose cleaner would work. I've used Fantastic. I've used 409. But Krug Kutter takes off any crayon, any wax, any oils. Sometimes there's tobacco or all kinds of stuff. So if you see, I wiped this one down. It's pretty nasty, but now it's all clean. So we got our picture. We wiped it down. I sprayed it down with Krug Kutter, keep it in a spray bottle. So now it's clean. Now I have my paint, and this again is the Amy Howard at Home. I got this from Ace Hardware. And they actually can mix any color. They have like the bases that they can tint for you, but the colors they have in their line are just so pretty, and I just love this French blue. So I'm gonna stir it up. And now brushes, you don't have to spend a fortune on brushes. I find any decent synthetic brush, like from Home Depot or Lowe's, will be fine. Just make sure to clean them after you use them and dry them, and then they'll be good to you. These brushes that I've been using for about 2 years, 2.5 years. And they're still going strong, so. Okay, so this one doesn't need to be primed. I know that's a question that comes up a lot. I've found in my experience, the only types of furniture that I usually prime are cherry or mahogany that are not sealed. This one here has a pretty good coat on it. I mean, it's old, I don't know where it's been, but I can see it's still sealed pretty well. So I don't think any of the tannins are gonna come through the wood to kind of stain my paint. So I'm just gonna go for it. I usually don't have to prime. Some surfaces do, like I said. Also pine, when pine has a lot of knots in it, the knots will tend to show through, especially if you're doing a light color, like a white or cream. So I'm just gonna start, and I usually tell everyone just to go in the direction of the grain, and you can't go wrong. So I hope you can all see. I'm just gonna start. And like I said to Amber earlier, it becomes addictive. Once you do your first piece, then you'll be looking around, what else do I have here that I can give a new life to or give a new look to? I recently
we can see it well. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay. So don't be afraid to just get in there and start painting. Like I said, I'm going with the direction of the grain. Just nice even strokes. And what's great about chalk paint, one of the things I love about it, if it's not perfect once you get your first coat done or your second coat done, I always take a very fine sandpaper and sand it down just to, give it a little light distressing, smooth it out a little bit so it doesn't have to go on perfectly. Especially that first coat. Sometimes the first coat we call it the ugly coat because you're like, oh no, what did I do? But as you'll see, when you do your first piece, or if you've done pieces before, I'm sure some of you have. I know Deborah did and had a little trouble with it. We're going to try to address that. Hopefully I can help her out with it. But chalk paint can be very forgiving. I use like a 220 grit sandpaper after the second coat to smooth it out. And it's all good. So just getting a first coat on. And this one, I'm just going to use, when I'm done with the painting part and the sanding, I'm going to just use the clear natural wax just to seal it. Now with chalk paint, you need some kind of top coat usually. This paint, although I found it does pretty well without it, but you need to kind of seal it, because if you're going to put a glass down, or if it's going to get, you know, a lot of use, if it's a tabletop, even like an accent table, you want to kind of coat it a little bit with something. So I like to use natural wax. I use, the brand I'm using right now is Country Chic Natural Wax. I also use their chalk paints. This one I chose because of the color. I just love this color. Also, foam brushes, like the inexpensive kind, like these. These also are good for small pieces. They come in all different widths. They get in small spaces. When you're doing like spindly things like these, the foam gets in all the little nooks and crannies, but it's okay to do it however you have to do it to fill in all the little ridges and things.
You said that was French
This
blue?
called French blue, that's the name of the color of this Amy Howard one step.
Okay, it looks white. It has a little bit of blue to it.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
it's probably the lighting.
gotcha.
It's a really pretty, I know Annie Sloan has a Annie Sloan chalk paint. They have a color called Duck Egg Blue, I believe, and it's very similar to that. It's a really, really light blue. And again, this is the first coat. After the second coat, it might, even to you guys on the screen, it might look more blue. But it's a really pretty color. So after I'm done with this first coat, the first coat usually dries pretty quickly, but I'll start talking about a few other things while it's drying before I get to the second coat. And like I said, start to finish with this piece in this webinar. So I'm glad I found something small. And I just had a feeling last night, I had to do some errands and it was trash night. And I said, oh, let me drive around a little. Maybe I'll find something small. And I turned the corner and there it was. Hitting the jackpot. Okay. All right, so first coat's going on pretty quick. Now I mentioned wax for a finishing coat, for a top coat. It can be a little tedious. I used a solid paste wax. I'll show you. Here we go. I don't like the liquid ones. I like this better, and I usually just use an old t-shirt to apply it. It's a solid wax. Once you rub it with the t-shirt, start spreading it, it goes on pretty smoothly. But for large projects, wax can be, it's labor intensive. It takes a lot of energy to do, a lot of work to do. You got to work quickly, but the result is always really nice. It gives you a nice soft finish. But because I've been doing this for a few years, it's kind of like a live and learn thing. Sometimes with larger pieces, like if I'm going to do a hutch or a large buffet, sometimes I say, you know what, let's use a latex paint so that I don't have to go through the waxing process, because most times the latex paint, 2 coats, that's it. You don't need any top coat. But if you wanted something with that distressed, chippy, kind of like that farmhouse stuff that's still in, and I hope it stays in because I love it, chalk paint's really good for that, because it's easy to just distress and it gives you that more rustic, more, you know, it's a different kind of look, because there's no shine. And the wax just gives it a very, very light, like a very subtle sheen. And it makes it Yeah.
What's the wax called? It's called like a furniture wax or?
And well, they have them in Home Depot sells them. Bear has one.
Okay.
Every company really now has it. They're all getting into that. Like Rust-Oleum has a really good chalk paint.
Okay.
It's called Chalked. It's only like $20 for the quart size, and they have a wax also. It's just a solid paste wax. This one just says natural wax, but the Bear one will say furniture wax on it, and it's perfect for chalk paint. It's with their chalk paint in the store, so it's all kind of goes together. You know exactly which one to get. Then they have colored waxes too, which are interesting and they're fun. But you know, if you have little nooks and crannies you want to get in with your antique wax sometimes to give it like a little nice, like to highlight any like you know, special areas. Like on this one here, I don't know how easy it's going to be to see, but there's like an embossed, there's a pattern in this. You won't be able to see, but I kind of want to preserve that, but I don't want all this gold and all these tones going on. So I'll use a solid color, but I'm going to try and save this. But if I used a colored wax, I could rub it into those little areas and that might look really nice. I just haven't decided which color to go with on this yet. Maybe I'll start this one while our first coat's drying. Yeah, maybe I will do that. All right, let's let this guy dry. It's a little humid in here. There's no AC in my garage, but let's see. Let's see how fast it takes for this guy to dry. And this one here, yeah, this one's going to be probably a chalk paint as well. So let's go with this one now. Let's see. You know what I'm going to do? Also, another thing I love to do if I'm going to use a paint that's not a chalk paint, I love to get color samples from Lowe's or Home Depot. They're like $4. Grays are really popular now, so I got a bunch of gray samples. So I think I'm going to go with one of these. And this is a satin finish. I won't have to wax it. I won't have to do any top coat, just 2 coats and it should be good to go. So let's use, what do we got here? Dove's Cry. Yeah, this is a nice light gray. Let's go with this. So I just need another one of my brushes. And let me just give this one a quick squirt with the Craig cutter. Again, this one's from the trash. I did do a light sanding on this guy earlier. There was some peeling paint on the top. So of course you want the surface to be as smooth as possible. Any like old paint that's peeling off, you can just give it a light sand. I use these sanding blocks all the time. You can get these anywhere, Ace, Home Depot, Lowe's. They're inexpensive. And then I have coarse sandpaper and I have fine sandpaper, and sometimes I just wrap them around the block just to make it easier to hold. So this one's already smoothed out. It's pretty smooth, pretty much ready for paint. So always make sure your surface is nice and smooth and clean. That's important. Spray down a little bit. So if you do sand any chipping paint off, just make sure you afterwards wipe it down with a soft cloth. Okay, this one should be interesting. I don't know what the top's gonna look like after all this pattern we have here, but it should be cool. Okay, so like I said, with this one, I'm going with the latex paint. Just stir it up. And it's a really light gray, it's a neutral, so I'll probably sell this one. So I like to go with neutrals. I recently took probably 75% of the furniture in my home. I had a lot of country French, like dark reds and golds. Everything went cream and gray. So I'm still leaning towards those kind of colors. And then I just switch out my color accents in the room. So it's a good neutral base. Okay, so this is the Dove's Cry by Valspar. And what's good also about these little paint samples, like I said, they're only $4. Give it a try, see if you like it. you don't like the color, or if the paint doesn't really go on the way you like it, like if you don't feel like it's doing, like it's looking right, just start over. That's it. You only invested $4.
Yeah, I actually love the paint samples. Like
Yeah, great.
even just to get them just to use on a project, like if it's a smaller table or something, or just if you have like a small, like little project you're doing, you can
Yeah,
get
great.
such great colors where, I mean, now they're coming out with a lot, but sometimes Michael's just has like the generic colors and you want something that really matches your room.
Right. Right. And you can get a sample made in any color of the thousands of colors that they have. Well, they
Right.
just pop it in the computer and you can, and you know, if you don't like it, you only invested a few bucks and then you just start over and that's that. Yeah, they're really good. There's also, I recently discovered there's an oops section in Home Depot, and they have open containers and like sample sizes. I don't know if they're discontinued colors or I don't know what, but they were like $2. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to spend a little more time there because why not, you know? It's just so inexpensive.
Deborah also says she loves the oops section.
Great. It's awesome. When I first started doing this, my first project was about, it's gonna be 5 years. And I had never painted furniture before and I didn't know what I was doing. I went on Pinterest and someone they showed a china closet, which is what I was trying to paint that my mother-in-law had left for me. And she used a latex paint in the color wrought iron. So I'm like, oh, that's a pretty cool color. So I went to my local Ace. I had it mixed up. It was a Benjamin Moore color. And I painted the whole china closet I just went for it. And when it was done and my family came for Christmas Eve, my mother-in-law was there and she's like, oh, you got rid of my china closet. What's that? What did you get this from Pottery Barn? I said, no, Mom, that's your china closet. It looked completely different. It was a golden oak china closet that I took the glass out and I painted it in a latex paint and I distressed it and changed the hardware and it looked like something I would have spent thousands of dollars on. So that was what got me started. And I haven't turned back. I just kept going.
That was the big first project.
You know what I figured? I figured I had nothing to lose. If it didn't come out good, I don't need this thing anyway, because she had lived with us and she moved out. And I'm like, well, I'll just put it to the curb. It doesn't look good. I wasn't going to keep it anyway because I thought it was ugly. So I really had nothing to lose. And then when it came out really the way it did, and I was very pleased and I was getting such great compliments, then I found a few smaller, like curio type pieces and painted them the same color. So they kind of looked like they belonged together. And then I used the same hardware. So it looked like a set. And that became storage for my husband's bourbon collection. So we had a room filled with matching, you know, pieces holding his collection that looked like it was something we went and spent a fortune on. But actually it was stuff I either found in the trash or was given to me. So it is addictive. Just be aware. When you do your first piece, it's not going to be your last. I can tell you that. Okay, so I'm liking the way I'm seeing the pattern show through, which I really like. Okay, this guy's drawing pretty quick, so I think we will get to our second coat on there. Now I think I might do the top a different color on this. I'm not sure, maybe black. That might look cool.
Yeah, I think you should.
Right?
A little contrast.
Yeah, and it's nice. Like the top looks like it's like a tray. Like it's like a little. I think it might look good in another color. I'm gonna do it in another color. I think a black would be nice. And I like the way this little sample is working out too. I like the color.
Does anyone else have any votes on the color she should paint the top tray part?
Oh, I'd love
so
to
you can put it in the chat if you do. See what everybody else thinks.
Yes, I'd love to know. Sometimes I sit with pieces and I just don't know what color to do them, and then it'll just come to me and I'll go, oh, okay, I'll do that. Like that little school desk chair that I found. I'm definitely gonna do an aqua. I don't know if you can see there's drips coming down the can, like a nice bright. I think it'll be fun to do it in that color. And then the seat will be stained in like a maybe a gray. We'll see. And if I don't like it, I can always do it over. That's one of the beauties of this kind of stuff. Nothing's permanent. It's just paint. Nothing to be like afraid of.
We do have a question.
Okay.
Did you sand the wood before using the paint?
I did not have to sand. Well, this one I just sanded lightly because there was peeling paint, but I don't even know what kind of wood this is. It's very lightweight. Extremely lightweight. No, I didn't. I only had to sand down the chippy parts, the parts that had, they weren't smooth. But as a rule, you don't have to sand. I mean, chalk paint will stick to almost anything. That's one of the beauties of it. The only time I would sand it is if it wasn't an even surface. If you have a dark wood piece and you sand it, what you do sometimes is you open up the pores in the wood to release the tannins, and they sometimes stain your paint. So as a rule, I don't always. Like this one here, I will, because it's not smooth. It's a little, I don't know what the heck is on this, but yeah, this I would sand. But it all depends on the piece. If your piece is, sealed and everything looks good and there's no like blemishes or no old chipping paint, then you really don't have to sand. It's a good cleaning is what I recommend.
Yeah, I guess everyone's like, I always thought this too. I thought you had to sand everything, but you're kind of saying you do not.
I don't think you do. No, I mean, sometimes you can scuff sand to make your paint stick a little better.
That's what Deborah was just asking.
Okay,
she was saying, do you have to rough it up?
Well, if it's
painting to adhere to. Oh.
Yes, I'm glad Deborah brought that up. If you have a piece that's highly, I want to say shellacked, like that really shiny, like it's a piece of furniture that was done in a factory years ago, and it's got that real shiny, thick coat on it. A scuff sand is a good idea because it's going to make your paint adhere quicker and better. So it may take less coats. So that's always a good idea to do a scuff sand when it's a real shiny piece. Otherwise, it's not always necessary. But like I said, chalk paint will stick. I recently did my kitchen cabinets, which, what a job that was. That was a lot of work. And I used the Valspar cabinet furniture paint for that. And all of the stuff, when I did my research, they all said sand, prime. And I'm like, no, you know what? I've been using this paint on furniture. Haven't used it on cabinets yet, but I know how it behaves. We did 2 coats. All I did was clean it with Krug Kutter. It's been months. They are like new, and it's, sometimes it takes a little time for paint to cure. I found that. I did a desk for a customer, and it was like a maple. Paint went on beautifully. Everything was fine. Did 2 coats. It looked great. I was packing up. Paint was all dry, and I scratched it with my nail, and the paint came off. So I'm like, okay, this is a problem. So I touched it up, and the same thing. I tried it in different spaces. The paint was just coming off. So after the touch-ups, I said to her, don't touch it for 48 hours, just leave it. I said, maybe 4 days, like don't touch it for like 4 or 5 days. And then call me. And then it was fine. It just needed that little extra time. And then it was fine. So sometimes it's like a, learning process. Like you don't know how it's going to behave until you do it. But most times with chalk paint and with this latexes that I'm using, a lot of priming isn't really necessary.
So the major disadvantage you mentioned of possibly sanding it, you said sometimes in the wood extract.
Yeah, if it's a mahogany, like
okay,
an older piece, I know it happens with mahogany and often with cherry. They have really the wood has tannins that will leak out if you kind of open up the pores a lot. Then you need a primer. Now, if that's happening, like sometimes if I know a piece is mahogany, I prime it automatically because it's happened enough to me to know that it's probably going to happen, especially if you're painting with a light color. But there's a primer called Kilz, K-I-L-Z, and that kind of seals in and prevents any bleed through. So I always use that on mahogany and cherry that's not sealed well. If it's cherry that's sealed well, I usually don't prime. And that's probably a scuff sand is okay. Like I said, if it has that real thick, clear coating on it. If you're gonna make your paint, you know, if it's chalk paint, especially to make it stick. But you know, it depends. You don't have to, as a rule, you don't have to prime everything. It all depends on the wood, the condition, and how well it's sealed or not. So.
Okay. I do see a question in here from
Sure.
Margot. Okay. And I'm not sure if I understand it, but I'm going to read it how it is. When using chalk paint as a chalkboard surface, do
Okay.
you wax it?
Chalk paint as a chalkboard
Surface.
Okay, those
Do
are
you wax it?
chalkboard paint is not the same as chalk paint. Chalkboard paint is the black paint. If you wanted to, I've done this before. I'm going to show you back here. I have a few mirrors also rescued from the trash. If you wanted to turn a mirror into a chalkboard, you just take a piece of plywood, get your chalkboard paint. I don't have any handy, but it's just a black. Rust-Oleum makes it. It comes in this kind of can. It'll say chalkboard, and it'll be black, obviously. And that's different. That's what you use to make chalkboards out of. It's not the same as chalk paint. So that you wouldn't wax. What you would do though, and a lot of people don't realize this, if you're going to make a chalkboard, or I've done desks with that, I've done the tops like these little school desks, the old vintage school desks. I've done that where I painted the top of the desk in the chalkboard paint, so it can be like a fun, you know,
Fun.
it's to draw. Great, I love it. It was amazing. But what you have to do if you're going to use chalkboard paint, whether on a wall board or on a furniture top, or you can even use it on a coffee table that kids are going to color on, like for a playroom. You have to prime the surface with a piece of chalk. So you have to rub the whole surface with a piece of chalk, and then
Regular chalk.
Regular chalk. Otherwise, the first time you write on that chalkboard, whatever you write will be there forever. It's just the thing, like it'll stay. I don't know how it works, but it does. You have to prime it with a piece of chalk, just like rub it across the whole surface so it's all white, wipe it off, and then you're ready to go. So chalk paint, chalkboard paint, two different things. But
you're giving me a good idea for a program, DIY chalkboards.
I'm thinking this one here, this would be a perfect surface for a chalkboard. So, because this is this cute little desk with the little heart-shaped seat. I just love this. So, well, maybe I'll do that, chalkboard paint on the top, and then regular chalk paint on the bottom. Or latex paint, I won't have to wax it, but we'll see. All right. I hope I answered her question.
Yeah, she said thanks. So.
Okay. All right. Okay, so this one's drying pretty quickly. The first coat on the bottom. Do I do black? Do I have any black? I have a nice dark gray. That might be nice. I don't know. In the meantime, I have a few other things I'd like to some tips that I'd like to share. Well, this one's drying before I can get the second coat on. So I'd love to talk about hardware. I love to collect hardware. Unfortunately, everything I'm demonstrating with tonight, nothing has a drawer or a door that has any hardware on it, oddly enough, but I have my collection here. So, and I did bring, this is from a dry sink that I have in my dining room that I chalk painted. And I found these adorable knobs. They're like copper in Hobby Lobby. That's one of my favorite sources for hardware. And every like other week, every 2 or 3 weeks, the hardware is 50% off. So I wait until it's on sale and then I stock up. So I love to do this. I found some old dressers that I've redone and updated it with different hardware. So I always save these. These are like the old colonial brass, but I couldn't throw them away. And I know I'll reuse them someday on some other project. What I've done with these is spray painted them and use them, like reuse them on the same piece. Like if I'm painting a piece white and it's like that farmhousey, if the customer, or even if it's for myself, if you want that farmhouse look, I would paint it white chalk paint, spray paint these black. It looks so great. It really pops up against the piece, against the drawers. Wooden knobs, a lot of times I'll find pieces in the trash, or just to, like, if I'm redoing a piece and I want to update the knobs to metal, because I love metal knobs, or like fun accent knobs, I always save the wooden ones because you can spray paint these any color and just reuse them. I mean, these are just the basic wooden knobs. I think I got these from my son's furniture when he was a baby. But I always save them, and then I just would paint and distress them and reuse them. Also, you can screw them onto like a piece of wood to make like a hanging rack. I just save them and repaint them and reuse them. If I'm updating the hardware on a piece with metal, I always save the wood. And a lot of times Marshalls and Home Goods will have packages with like 12 knobs for like $8, or 6 knobs for $5 or whatever. So I always save, like, I always pick them up, because you never know, you're gonna find that piece that you, or if you have a specific piece that you want to update the hardware, sources to find some really interesting ones. Also, when I have a piece that has drawers, I always like I said, to use fancy hardware or like something cool and different. And I like to line my drawers always. And one of my, well, it's not really a secret, but scrapbook paper. They're usually 12 by 12. Very inexpensive, and they're thick, they're heavy, and I love this. Like, they come in these great tons of different kinds of patterns. But if I have something with small drawers that are smaller than 12 by 12, I usually just cut this to fit and lay it in. It's a nice way to update, a piece you might have at home. If you're going to paint a dresser and you're going to, change out the hardware, why not line it with something new and, fun? Or Dollar Tree or any of the dollar stores have these shelf liners that you just cut and lay them in. Or they have the adhesive ones too. But sometimes I just use a spray adhesive. It's just a lot easier. Spray inside the drawer, cut it to fit, lay it in. But definitely scrapbook paper is a good resource for that, because you see how
when you add those, you spray the top after as well. Like, you spray the bottom and then put the
bottom. No, just the bottom, so that it sticks, okay. It doesn't move around.
And you don't feel like it doesn't ever mix the paper without putting a top layer on it, a top coat?
I mean,
I didn't.
No, I just leave it the way it is. Sometimes
okay.
Spray it with a little scent or something, but these are good. The drawer liners are really good.
Yeah.
The shelf liners are good, because you can wipe it clean if you need to, and they come in different sizes, but the larger ones are great because this will fit like a big dresser drawer. So I always try to not neglect the insides of the drawers when I do a piece on the outside. Like, if I'm going to paint something, give it like cool hardware or update hardware or spray paint something just to make it look different and add some nice liners to the inside. All right, so let's see how this guy's going. All right, I think what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to use this. This is Country Chic, which is a clay-based chalk paint, which is one of my favorites. This is a color called Cobblestone. It's a really nice dark gray. So I think I'm going to use this on the top. That'll give a nice contrast instead of black. I think this might be the way to go. So I'm going to give this a coat of Cobblestone. And this is also very easy to distress. So this piece I definitely want to distress. I think it'll look nice. And wax also. I'm going to wax this one with clear wax. Now this is the one that had a cool pattern on the top, so I think I can tell already it's showing through, which is going to be nice. Yeah, this is good. This is going to look good. Okay, so let's see. We have chalk paint, we have latex paint, spray paint. Any other kind of paints that anyone has any questions about, or which is the best one to use for a specific project? I'd be happy to help you with that.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, just you can raise your hands. I can always unmute you at any point throughout the presentation, just as a reminder. And if at any point you have anything that you want to show us that you want tips on, let us know, and I could also turn on your camera for you. So those are options. And if you just want to sit back and relax and watch Andrea do all the work, you can do that too.
Well, this is fun for me, so I love it. I could do this all day long. And like I said, that little embossed pattern, I'm going to hold it up and see if you guys can see it, but it's showing through. I think it looks really pretty. I might now this is happening, I might use a white wax on this to kind of, it'll like work it into the grooves, and then it'll just highlight that pattern a little bit. Also, when I distress anything that has a pattern, if I'm going to distress the edges, I always make sure to go over the pattern itself, and I'll show you what I mean. Because once the paint's dry, if I take a fine sandpaper and just go over it, it's going to wear away from the outside of the pattern, and the inside will still stay, in this case, it'll still stay gray. So that's a good way to highlight any little accent areas that you have, any like detail. So colored wax or distressing. Okay, so now I didn't tape this off with painter's tape, and you see I got a little sloppy there, but that's okay because it's going to come right off. I'll wipe it off, and for the second coat I'll make sure to, this is still a little wet so I can't tape it yet, but for the second coat I'll make sure not to do that. I'll tape it off. Yeah, so this is good. I like this choice of the light gray bottom with the dark gray top. It's a keeper. Okay. And this is a combination of latex paint and chalk paint. Let's see. I think it's going to be too hard to see. Maybe not. See, it has like a little pattern. So I'm going to make sure to highlight that in my finishing coat, my finishing stage.
That pattern is great. You think it'll save it?
Yeah, I'm going to save it.
That's great.
Save it. I'm going to either use white wax, which it needs to be waxed anyway because the top is chalk paint. So I have to do something to it. I can't just leave it if it's going to be a tabletop. It has to have some kind of protection. So if I use a natural wax, it'll look good. But if I use a white wax, it's going to serve the same purpose, but it's also going to get in those little grooves and it's going to show the pattern. So I think I might, or you can always do I sometimes do a combination. Like I'll just do the white wax, work it in with a soft rag. Love to use old t-shirts, work in the wax, and then just put a natural wax on top. So it's protected, and then you still get the little benefit of the highlight in the pattern. So yeah, and this one also.
I do have a question. How much paint do you use to cover one layer? How thick must it be?
Excellent question. You have to make sure you have the right amount of paint on the brush, and you'll know it when you do, because if you have too much, you're going to get drip marks from the outset, and you're going to know it's this. You could just tell. If you don't want drips, you don't want, you know, it shouldn't be falling off your piece. This particular the country sheet paint is excellent at, if you find a drip mark after your first coat is dry and then you suddenly see it and it's there, you could still wipe it right off. So a lot of these chalk paints are like that. But you have to just, you'll know when it's the right amount of paint. You can tell just by how it goes on. And if you see too much, then just go with a drier brush over it and like kind of, you know, move it around and absorb some of it. It'll never dry if you put too thick of a coat. So yeah, you just need enough paint just to look. Perfect example. I have a drip right here, which means I probably had too much paint on it. So there, it's gone. You want enough paint to cover, but not too much that it's, you know, dripping off. I hope that answers your question. It's better to use less paint than more paint. That's another good way to look at it. All right, so this one's almost ready for its second coat. It's just a few spots that are still wet, but get started on it. Is it still looking white, this piece, or is it starting to look like French blue?
It's still kind of, I wish I could see the blue. I see it. Yeah.
Let's see.
Kind of looks white. Yeah. Deborah thinks it looks white too.
Oh man, because it's the light. All right. Oh, I wish you guys could see because it's such a great color.
You'll have to send us a picture.
Yeah, I can do that. Sure. I mean, it's light, but it's definitely a blue. And I see it looks like I'm bouncing around from place to place on this piece, but some parts are still wet. So, and it's covering pretty well. So, I mean, as long as and this one, okay, another thing, this one's definitely going to be distressed just because of the style of the piece. I think because it's old and I think it'll look good distressed. So when you're going to distress at the end, doesn't have to be perfect. You know, you can have a couple of brush marks. You can have a few missed spots. It all depends on the look you want in the end. So you don't have to have two perfectly covered, you know, full coats if you're going to take sandpaper and remove some paint in the end. So that's what I mean when I said before that chalk paint's forgiving, because it is. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you wanted a sleeker look, if you had like a nice mid-century piece or something a little more modern and you didn't want distressing, then your coats have to be a little smoother. And that's why I recommend the Valspar cabinet and furniture paint.
Now with the desk where you're going to have, you know, possibly a kid using it a lot to like write on it and do activities, is that when you would want to wax it? That's what preserves it?
Excellent question, Amber. Something like a work surface, like a desk, like you said, like a kid's going to use. Now, whether I use chalkboard paint, well, chalkboard paint I wouldn't seal because it's going to be used, you're going to use chalk on it. It needs to be, you know, just as is. But if I was going to paint this, I would use one of these water-based, either Varathane or Minwax makes a polyurethane. And I love the matte. Sometimes you want a shiny look. I usually go for the matte. So I would just use a clear sealer, which is like a polyurethane or Varathane, to protect it, to protect the surface.
Okay, that's what I need to do to fix one of my cabinets in my son's room. I painted them all. They looked great, but over time, you can just see like the paint is chipping away as he starts to use like the desk area.
Okay, yeah.
And I also made like a diaper changing station, and it's held up okay, but now as it's like 2 years, now it's 4 years old.
Oh, okay.
You know, parts of the paint are starting to chip away. So I guess if I was to repaint that and then put the clear coat on it,
Yep.
sealer. Okay.
Yep, that'll work. I like the water-based ones. They clean up easily. You know, it's not like you have to use oil-based is a little trickier. You wouldn't need it. That would work fine. And it'll give you a nice coverage and a nice matte look. Yeah, if it's a work surface, like I used this, where'd it go? This Varathane on my kitchen table. I had a farm table that I repainted, sanded. I didn't stain it because I found out it was a veneer. All the years I was using it, I thought it was solid wood. As soon as we started sanding it, it's a veneer. So you know it's very thin. It's not going to be something you can sand and stain. It won't accept the stain. So we ended up painting it. And I'm like, well, this is my kitchen table that we use every day. So I used like 4 coats of that clear matte. And it's been 3.5 years, and it's still going strong. So we use it every day. So yeah, tabletops will need a little more protection. Wax won't really cut it. Wax is good for accent tables.
Okay.
You know, or a desk that you don't really sit and work at.
We do have another question.
Yes.
How do you select the furniture? Where do you get them?
Aha. Okay. My favorite source is the trash. I'm a garbage picker. I find the best stuff. I mean, I just can't say no when I drive by and I see something. I just have to throw it in my car. Older stuff to me is just has more character, usually made better than some of the stuff you get today. So that's a huge source for me. Facebook Marketplace, I'm always looking. I was actually looking for a bench that I wanted to paint for someone as a gift. So I scoured Facebook Marketplace until I found the right one. You can get stuff very, really reasonable on Facebook Marketplace. Family and friends, they know that I love to paint furniture, so they're always offering me things, which is great. I just wish I had the storage and I could take everything. And I have always done my own, like repainted my own stuff that I still liked, I'm still using. I just wanted to update it. So I think I've done everything in my house except for like 1 or 2. Eventually I will do those 1 or 2. But yeah, I don't, a good yard sale. I'm always up for a good yard sale. So there's plenty of, I just wish, like I said, I had a big storage unit or something. Not that I'm a hoarder, but it's hard to say no to good furniture. And there's also something very rewarding, I think, from finding something in the trash and upcycling and turning it into something that, you can use that's not going in a landfill or, I love that. I love to upcycle small things too. I'm going to show you while this is drying some cool things that I found and I painted yesterday. So if you're going to do a project and you're going to have a couple of different colors of chalk paint around, or you have these little open paints and you don't know what to do with them, I'll show you what I do with them. So I found these in the trash. They were just old wooden plaques. This one had like a decoupage. It was really old and like fallen. It was like all chipping. It was like decoupage, like a picture, like a postcard of dogs. And it was cute, but it needed a little help. So I sanded it down and I stenciled this little crab on it. And then I took a rope and just hot glued it to the back. So I made myself a little, I'm actually going to sell this one. But, and then I took, so this is chalk paint that I stenciled on, and then I waxed the whole thing. So it's like nice and smooth and has a little bit of sheen. It's like perfect to hang in like a coastal room, or like, I love that coastal look, the nautical look. Same thing here. I just took this piece of wood. I don't know if it was a cutting board. It was in the trash. It was just plain wood. I sanded it, did a little whitewash with white chalk paint, stenciled a, what is this, seahorse? No, starfish, sea star. And then this side, I put a seahorse and I waxed it. And this one I'm also going to sell. I have a space at Nest on Main in Northport. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but that's where I sell my furniture and like other home accents that I make. So also candlesticks. I have a thing for candlesticks. So I would like to show you, I had some old ones. These were gold, had them forever, but I just took a sage colored chalk paint and painted these 1, 2, 3. This was a brass candlestick from the trash. I just sprayed it with Rust-Oleum makes a spray chalk paint. So a couple of coats of that and it's like a whole different thing. So I love the spray chalk paint. That's another thing. It's good for little accent pieces, something, you know, anything that you don't want, like chairs, even things with like spindly things or little grooves. It's hard to get in with a brush. Spray chalk paint's wonderful for that. This also was a candlestick that I don't even remember what color it was, but it was ugly. So I painted it in white chalk paint, and then I took a little gold wax and just highlighted some of the accents. And spray paint comes in really good colors now. I mean, it's like amazing what how much better it's gotten. I think the nozzles are better, so it just, everything just sprays so beautifully and easily. I was never a good spray painter, but these days, I don't know, they've gotten better. They're just great. And they have all kinds of metallics. They have, like I said, the chalk paint. They have pebble finishes. They have sea glass. You can take old glass vases and spray them and they look like sea glass. Beautiful. And a can of spray paint is like $5, $6. So you can't go wrong with those. Let's see how we're doing here. All right. I'm almost ready for a second coat on this one as well. Does anyone have any specific pieces of furniture that they'd like, do they have any questions on, or they like to show, or if I can help anyone make any kind of decisions on what kind of paint to use? I'd love to hear it.
I would too. I want to help somebody redo a piece. This would be great.
Yeah. I mean, this virtual is great. This virtual class is awesome, but in person, I love doing that because I host classes in person. Well, we did before COVID at least, but it's always great to see what everybody brings in. There's always amazing pieces, and then to watch it in like a space of a few hours change from what they brought in to what they're going home with. It's like, it's so
Yeah,
much-
I mean, just in the past, hour, you've completely transformed 2 pieces. It's amazing what you can do.
we're not completely done, but you get the gist of it, right?
Yes.
This one I would love to, you know what, I just want to show you guys, like when I just stress it, like how I go about that. It's my favorite part of the process. So I'm going to wait till some of these edges are dry enough, and I'm going to do a little distressing so you can see that. The waxing, I'm not going to probably get to do today on this guy because of the time, but I can show you on something small how to, if you want me to demonstrate how to wax. It's easy. It's just an old t-shirt and a little, circular motion, wax on, wax off. That's what, and then when it's dry, you buff it, and then they're good to go.
Okay, so we do need clarification on something.
Yes.
Just to be clear,
Yes.
this is a question from a patron. Just
Okay.
to be clear, you should not paint furniture that has a veneer stain. Question.
Okay. No. If it's a veneer, you can't sand and stain it. Veneer, like a thin veneer top, because once you start sanding, well, let me clarify that. If I was using an electric sander, you cannot, because you're gonna go too deep and there'll be no more wood grain left. They're super thin. So you can certainly paint a veneer, absolutely. It's just not, it doesn't lend itself to staining. like this right here. This is solid wood. You see the grain, it's dirty because it came from the trash, but if I sand this, the grain will be beautiful because you can already see how the character of it. And then this is gonna soak up that stain, like it's gonna dry immediately because it's so porous.
They have something with a veneer stain on it,
Okay, and they want to
then I guess they would just have to paint over it and not sand it.
yeah. I mean, I've tried
Because
it.
if you sand it, then it's kind of,
They're so thin most of the time that to get the old stain off and preserve the grain is really hard to do. Then there's nothing for the new stain to soak into, you know? So I really wanted that look on my table when I was redoing it. I painted the legs like a cream and I wanted to do a dark wood, like a walnut stain on the top, but it wasn't happening because it was a veneer. I mean, the quality of it was good. I thought it was solid wood, but it wasn't. So like this one here, this will soak up the stain. You'll see the grain, and it's going to be a dream to do. But veneers, unfortunately, I've done a few tables that I thought were veneer. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to work. I'd love to sand this and stain it. And then I said, well, you try a corner. I'm like, wow, okay, I'm still sanding and I'm still staining the grain. And then sometimes what you think is veneer is not, you think it is and it's not. And sometimes it's the other way around. But if it is a thin veneer, your best option is to paint. Yeah, you can paint it and then use like a faux technique to get a wood grain. That's something they sell kits like combs. You can make a faux wood grain, or just, I've done this before too, use a glaze. Like my table, I did it in like a dark moss green, and then I used a white glaze over it because I wasn't getting the effect of a nice stain with the grain. So I said, what's the next best thing? So I used my cabinet and furniture paint because I knew it was going to be durable, and I knew it wouldn't show any brush marks, and it was going to be a good surface, once it was done. And then I took a white lime wash glaze and just glazed it over. So it gave it a little more interest. It wasn't just a flat moss green top. It had a little, depth to it because I had the white glaze on it. And then I did the couple of coats of the matte poly. So it was a good surface and it had a pretty look to it. It was the next best thing to staining. So, you have to just take it like one piece at a time and see what you got. Let's see. All right, I really wish this guy was dry enough for me to start distressing, but I think I will be able to. I think I'll be able to do at least one little spot for you guys. Yeah, this one. Yeah, I'm liking this combination of the dark gray top with the dove gray bottom. I think it's good. This latex paint seems to be drying much quicker than the chalk paint is tonight. I wonder if it's because of the humidity. Sometimes that happens. It all depends on the conditions too. It is a little humid in here. Okay. Oh, Amber, there was a question earlier before we were, right as we were getting started from Deborah about her chalk paint that was peeling.
Yes. And Deborah's still with us, so.
Oh, good, because I'd like to get like a little more info from her, so maybe I could help her out. Was it what kind of surface was it? It was a solid wood surface?
It's a good question. Deborah, would you want us to unmute you so you could talk about your project to see if we could help you out and give you some ideas? Let us know in the chat. Oh, maybe you already did. Okay, she's wondering if it was too cold outside or I used too much paint. It was a painted wood surface.
It was solid wood surface?
It was a painted wood surface. She didn't say if it was
Painted
solid wood or not.
Okay, and then she did chalk paint over a painted wood surface. That should be fine. Yeah, that should be fine. And it peeled. That's right? It peeled off. I'm wondering, is it possible to ask her what kind of paint it was, what brand, just so that I have the
do you remember what brand it was? Okay, we can unmute her. Yay.
Oh, okay, great.
Yay, she can explain it.
Oh, good. I'm glad because I really want to help her.
You're unmuted, Deborah. Hello?
Hi, Deborah. Oh, while we're waiting for Deborah, I do have another tip. That chippy look, that like farmhouse chippy look, that's still kind of popular. I love it. I always will love it probably. If you wanted to get that look, I have a little secret, a little tip. I use just regular petroleum jelly. I'll do one coat of whatever, let's say on a piece just like this, one coat, take my petroleum jelly, just put it on a certain, like just highlight some areas, just like an inch, whatever size, whatever much degree of chippiness I want to get. Just use a little brush and paint it on. And then my next layer of paint will not stick to it. And then when I sand it, it's going to come right off like it was, intentional chippiness, like intentional distressing, not just when you do an edge. If you want like patches of that chippiness, kind of like that. I do that often, but it's kind of like I don't want to say dying trend, but I still like that farmhouse stuff. The shabby chic look. Okay, I'm going to start distressing some of this here so you guys can see. Yeah, okay, I got a spot I can do. So I'm going to take fine grit. This is a 320. The higher the number, the finer it is on your sandpaper. The lower the number, the coarser it is. So to distress the chalk paint, just to highlight edges, I usually use really fine. So let's see. I'm just gonna gently rub it on the edge, apply a little pressure. And then you can see, I'll bring it even closer. So light. I don't know if you could see the edge there. That's how I just give it a little.
Okay.
Best look. And then, yeah, it's still a little wet for me to do a larger area. I was hoping it would be dry, but it's only been about an hour. So, and then here on the pedestal base, where all these little details are, that's a spot where I would certainly go over it with my sandpaper and just highlight it. You want to keep in mind, like, especially for a larger piece of furniture, if you're distressing, you want to do it in areas where it looks like it would naturally have worn off over time, like edges, corners, not just random spots like in the middle of a piece. I think it looks better when you purposefully put it in the spots where you want to highlight. Oh, I don't think it's showing up here, but like where you have these ridges. So I did it over there, and the corners, of course, when this is dry. Let's see. I would do a little leg, and again, you probably can't see it as well as I think, or as I would like you to. Let's see. Yeah, it's definitely not dry yet. I'm having better luck with this one here. Okay. Oh, and don't forget when you're painting furniture, don't forget your little felt pads. I always put new, fresh ones when I paint a piece of furniture. Give it a whole new, clean look. Protect your floors. Okay. This one. I said I was going to use painter's tape to tape it off so I don't get any dark gray on the light gray, but we're in a time crunch here, so let's just go for it. Okay. It's funny, this piece, I think because the wood is so much lighter and maybe it's just more porous, this one dried much quicker than the one that I thought would. So I should have done this one first. It would have been completely done. But I think you
So,
get the
Deborah was having some technical difficulties. We never were able to get it to work. She was brainstorming. Do you think it could be that it was too cold, or maybe it didn't dry well between coats?
That's possible. Tell her, okay, so has she tried to redo it? Because she should, if she hasn't already. I mean, I would just.
And maybe use one of the brands that you suggested.
Yeah, it's better, like start over, just sand it down. And even with the paint she already has, I mean, just to give it another shot. I'm trying to think what else would make it do that.
Or maybe it's because she didn't put like this, if it's a surface she uses a lot, maybe the same thing that happened to me. Like I just didn't put the sealer on and then it flaked away.
And it's chalk paint, right? It was chalk paint that Deborah said she used.
I believe so, yeah.
So it's possible that if it was the surface she was using that it got scratched off. That's very possible. So she should try and use a clear sealer or even a wax to to cover it, but I think she should definitely just sand it. You don't have to use a sander. You can hand sand it with one of these blocks and just give it another shot. Try it again. Oh, another thing, I just realized I have this here. Brass cleaner is like a miracle for these old pieces of hardware. If you have an old piece and it has tarnished hardware, it's like a miraculous thing. Like you just clean it with this brass soap just on like a damp paper towel. It takes all of it off, and it's like you have a whole new piece, even if you didn't paint the piece. Just if you want to, you know, freshen up your hardware, this stuff is great. Sometimes it looks like a whole new piece of furniture. I've had old pieces that I found, like vintage dressers with those beautiful round brass pulls, and they were so tarnished that they would look like black, but like not a good black, like a yucky black. And then paint like I had one I did blue. It was a gorgeous blue and like a teal. And then when I shined up the hardware and they got this to be this shiny brass, it was like a whole new piece, and it looked like $1 million. It really did. So a lot of things you can do to really give an old piece like a whole new, like to bring it into like the, you know, the next century and just keep it forever and ever and pass it down. And I love doing stuff like that. All right, this guy's really not trying, but, and it's definitely something I would do more distressing to, but he's still a little wet. And let's see, just finish this one up. This one was much faster than I thought. Almost finished.
Yeah, once if it doesn't dry tonight, when you finish it, you could always take some pictures and I can send it to everybody who attended tonight. So no stressing.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that because I want everyone to get, you know, the whole start to finish, like the transformation. That's important. So yeah, I would definitely do that, Amber. I'll send you pictures. And I'll even, like, once I'm done with the waxing or whatever I decide to do for the final coat on this, I think I'm going to try the white wax on the top, and I'll send pictures and you guys can see, you know, the kind of different effects you can get with it. And if you have any questions going forward, I know you'll all get my email and my Instagram. You can always reach out to me if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help. You know, if it's about any specific projects that you have or anything I've done, be happy to answer any questions going forward, of course. I'm liking the way this top came out. I'll show it to you. I hope you can see it on camera, but I definitely see the pattern. This is a weird little table. It's a cute find though. I like it. But did I take a picture of it? I hope I took a picture. Uh-oh. Rule number 1, take a before picture, and I don't know if I did on this one. We'll see.
Well, since we recorded this, you could always go back and take a screenshot of the video. Worst case.
I think my son sent me a picture when he found it in the garbage. I think I have the original before I even sanded the top down a little bit because it was a little chipping, but here's the top with that embossed, with that, it's still wet, so it's hard to see, but I'm sure you can see it. It has like a scrolly little indented pattern in there, which is nice and pretty. And look what I just did. I just put my finger on there and took the paint off. Okay. All right. Yeah, this guy needs to dry a little bit more too. This one though, I don't think I'm going to distress the legs. I think I'm just going to leave them the way they are. I might just distress the top and highlight the pattern and just leave this one like this. I don't think I'm going to distress it.
What would you use to highlight the pattern, the colored wax you were talking about, or?
I'm gonna either use white wax, or I might, when it's completely dry, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my sandpaper and just go over it with the sandpaper. And a lot of times that gives you the perfect effect. You don't have to use any wax. I think I'm gonna try that first. And if I like the way that comes out, then I'll just lightly sand it to expose the little, the pattern will stay in the paint will stay in the pattern, and around the edges of it, it'll like be a feathered little, area that like it'll show through. And then I can just use a natural clear wax. I'm gonna try it. I'll send a picture. We'll see.
Yeah, Edith agreed. She says that sounds good to emphasize the pattern and then nothing for the legs.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm gonna do. Thanks, Edith. I think I'll do that. Yeah. And then there's also a little, it's like a little daisy pattern on here. Maybe I'll just kind of lightly sand that to highlight that a little bit and just leave the legs. Because otherwise I think there might be too much going on, because it already has two different colors and the top's got the pattern. So I think I'll just leave the legs. They're in really good shape too. And to think someone put this on the curb, I think it's cute. Okay. Okay.
So we are approaching 8 o'clock. So I just wanted to again give everyone a chance to ask a question if you have it before we run out of time. So I'll just put it out there again. And it is fine if it's Friday night and you're just relaxing and watching. That's fine too. I just didn't want to miss the opportunity for everybody. So
I can't believe it's almost 8 o'clock already.
yes, last call for questions. So Andrea, we do have a request for your email. Am I able to share that on here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, please.
And your Instagram, somebody was asking for.
Yeah.
I don't think I have that. I know I have your email.
The Instagram is at Dre's Eclectic Workshop.
Okay, let me see if I could pull up that handle too.
Great.
So just bear with me one moment. I'm just gonna copy the email into here, everybody, and you'll have it in just a second.
Perfect. Yeah, and if you look on Instagram, there's pictures of probably almost everything I've done to date, which has been a couple of years now. So there's a lot of good stuff on there. And I always do before and afters on my Instagram, so people can see what it was before.
Okay, I just put the email in the chat for everybody.
Okay, great.
And let me see if I could pull up the Instagram. You're on Facebook too, Andrea?
Yep. Facebook,
okay.
It's the same. It's Dre's Eclectic.
Okay.
Yep. Facebook too.
Okay, found that. Here's the Facebook. And then the handle would just be this. Hi. success.
Great.
Well, that was great. We got a lot of fantastic tips. So thank you for that. If anyone thinks of any questions after the program, or if you got inspired and then you start looking around your house and you want some tips, you can certainly email me and I could get in touch with Andrea, or I did put her email in the chat, so you can copy and paste that. Somebody said lots of good info. Thanks. I agree too. I'm inspired. Her Facebook is on there. I just took a peek. There's lots of good ideas on there. And then her Instagram as well. So get inspired, give it a shot. We're still in spring mode here, so that usually inspires everyone to kind of, get things cleaned up and revamp and everything.
Those yard sales. Find some good things, good pieces to paint.
Yeah, and I think this would be wonderful to do something in person. So if anyone thinks of any projects or anything, give me a shout, and maybe we can get you in person in the fall to come in and visit us.
Oh, that'd be so much fun. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Where did you say your shop is located?
The shop where I have a space where I sell my furniture is Nest on Main. It's 135 Main Street in Northport. And it's a great collection of different artisans and vendors and artists and all kinds of things for your home. There's jewelry, they do great classes there. It's just a great place. Floral studio, candles, you name it, everything's there.
Yeah, and I believe they're starting to offer some in-person classes there as well.
They are.
And they tend to do like longer classes as opposed to the library. So like all day workshops. Andrea was saying she does. So
3 and 4. The workshops there are about 4 hours. So these guys would have been dried and distressed and waxed. But yeah, we got pretty far in an hour and a half, I think.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I think we did.
Okay, so I'll send pictures out to everyone who attended once they are distressed. And if you think of anything else, just let us know. And you're welcome, everybody. A couple thank yous in the chat, so thank you. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Friday night and have a great weekend and enjoy this abnormal 80, 90 degree weather we're getting. So enjoy. Happy summer, everybody.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.